Okay. We are now streaming, but I need to post the URL for people. So, let me find that. I can't remember where to find it. Hi, everybody that's watching this later, because nobody can watch it live, because I still haven't posted the URL anywhere. Patreon. I love my patrons. It's screwing everything up for me. I had a system.
I love you so much that I'm not going to give you the link.
Let's see. I mean, here's a stream URL. Do I just copy that? That's not right, is it?
Share to the for the stream.
Yeah.
Let me see. I think I might have it here. No, that's April 2024. Are we even live?
We are.
I don't see it.
Well, that's because it's unlisted. It used to post, do you know what I mean? Like you have to have the actual URL in order to
Oh, right.
Link to it.
That's right.
And that's the problem. I just can't remember.
How did we get it last
Do
time?
I share? I share it. Here we go.
There
it is.
It's as simple as just pressing share.
Okay.
Who would have thought?
Got it. And now I can post it to Discord. Go into the Discord. Live stream. Questions. Everybody's like, you're late. Here. We're live. Post.
We already got people. Where's the live
Send
stream?
now. Okay.
It's here, I promise.
Okay. And then I'm going to put that on YouTube. And I'm going to put it on. Okay. Create post. Blah, blah, blah. Sorry, everybody that's watching this later.
Okay.
Post.
We should be
We're live.
good.
Put that in silver.
Hey,
higher.
Black Belt Blacksmith.
Post.
Happy to have you
And
here.
then going to Patreon. And I got to post it there.
Just getting all the links to all the people, so just hang tight.
Man.
We had a process, and then it changed, and now it's like we have to remember every time. And
It's a little more work.
Once a month, so
April Q&A. We're live.
Oh man,
Boink.
it feels like it's been
Upload.
so long since we've last.
You know, it has. Well, and not only
it's
that.
just been, I think, the month
Yes.
since we talked.
Like
really.
we usually will try and get together to play or go to lunch, and we just haven't done that. How's the volume, everybody? Let us know. I could probably move this a little closer.
Get a little bit.
Okay.
All right, how's it going? We got Pat with the bat. We got Luke. We got James. How's it going, everybody?
All right.
Welcome in.
Put that down. So, how you been?
I've been good.
Yeah?
It's been, a lot of stuff has happened since we talked last.
Yeah.
It was spring break, I think, right before we left. So
Yeah.
I took my kids to Disneyland, which was
Nice.
hard and fun.
Yes,
and it's
as
not
always.
a vacation, really. It's,
No, it's a trip.
It's a trip.
Yeah.
You're exhausted when you get back, but it was a good time. You did something for spring break, right?
Yeah, we just went down to southern Utah and a couple of days in Vegas. Took the kids to a show.
Oh, we gotta say hi to the D&D club. Hi,
Ate
D&D
good
club.
food. Hi, D&D club. Oh, that's right. Because someone was leads their D&D club at school. So, welcome to you guys especially.
Yeah, post your questions in the chat.
I wish I had a D&D club when I was in school.
Yeah.
That would be awesome. My D&D club was at my friend Adam's house.
Yeah. We didn't have a D&D club, and I feel like even if we did, I would have been bullied for joining it.
Yeah,
I was still part
sure.
of that
For sure.
generation.
Yeah. Okay, so quickly, just nerd news.
Yeah.
I mean, have you been watching Andor?
Yes.
I haven't started season 2 yet.
I didn't watch the last 3 that posted last night. I just watched the first 3.
Okay.
Good.
I was all ready to just jump in, but like I watched this little this little synopsis of like season 1, and I just went, you know what? Like it's been so long, and this was such a good show that like I just need to rewatch season 1. So like I think I'm on like episode 10 of 12 now of season 1, where my wife and I have been kind of cranking through it. So, oh my gosh, it's so good.
It's the best Star Wars.
It's
so good.
It really might be. Like it doesn't. It has this weird ability to feel very much like Star Wars and feel very much not like Star Wars. You know what I mean? Like most Star Wars is pretty campy, right? And it's a little bit like YA, juvenile, a little bit, and not in a bad way, right? It is what it is. And I love it. And more than any other Star Wars show or movie that has ever come out, I would argue, it feels like much more adult, much more nuanced, like more subtle, like in the best ways. It takes its time with like character development in a way that other Star Wars shows don't. And it's just, the acting is so good and the writing is so good and the characters like are all shades of gray in almost a Witcher-esque way. Do you know what I mean? Like you don't just have these like, these guys are the good guys and these are the bad guys and like it's this dark versus light. It's like there's a lot of nuance here and like shades of gray, and it's so good.
It's the heroes from the shadow kind of thing. Like if Luke gets to be the White Knight, these are all the kind of like oath breakers.
Yeah. Or like the CIA operatives that like do the dirty work so that like the paladin can look good. I just mixed some metaphors there, but anyways.
Yeah, it's the real life version of if Star Wars happened in the world that we know.
Yeah.
Unfold more this way.
Yeah. Oh.
It's real good.
So good. Baldur's Gate 3.
Patch 8. Yeah. I haven't even touched it. I'm too scared because I know it'll just suck another 100 hours out of my life.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I need to talk about it because a lot of people, I'm sure, are wondering. I'm assuming, like, you know, are you going to just do a bunch of BG3 content now? Like, so I put out the Bladesinger and Hexblade Baldur's Gate 3 video yesterday, right? And my thought was like, I don't know if I'm going to do more BG3 content. Kind of depends on how this one does. And of course, it's like number 1 of 10. I mean, it's actually not like going crazy. It's just like a little better than everything else I've done recently. But that's enough, I think, to warrant at least one more
just keep going until
BG3 video. I think
1 out of 10.
I was like halfway through a script on a different D&D build that people on the Discord will know because I've been asking for help naming it, right? I don't even remember what it is now because that was 2 whole days ago and that was just way too long for me to think about. What was I working on? It was I seriously like
name your channel.
That's how my brain functions right now. It was
I'm trying to find it.
I can't remember. It was something a little unique. Anyways, whatever.
Let's see.
It'll come to me, or you guys will remind me.
Support controller focused on fear.
Yeah. That's right. It was got a Conquest Pally with probably some Bard and Warlock levels. Anyways. After seeing like how well the Baldur's Gate video was doing, I was like, okay, like pause that, and let's, you know, work on maybe another BG3 video, at least do one more, I think, and just kind of see how that does. I do, by the way, though, I do have like the video that comes out next week is a D&D build. It's the sword and hand crossbow build that you guys helped me come up with the name for. And so yeah, that'll be cool. I'm excited for that. That's the one that Nox is editing right now. So that'll come out next week. And then I think I'll have a BG3 one after that. And we'll see how it does. But it's so fun. And like the thing that you got to love about Larian and just putting D&D into a video game is like that you don't need to worry too much about balance like you maybe do for a tabletop role-playing game where there's a bunch of people sitting around and they're all playing and you know you don't want somebody to like outshine somebody else, but
Right.
like in a video game, you can just be like, you know what, screw
Yeah,
it. Like
let it go.
Shadow Blade doesn't require concentration and it lasts all day, so you can put haste on yourself and have an upcast Shadow Blade, and it works with Booming Blade, and you just kill everything, and it's so fun. It's a lot of fun, and I'm seeing from the comments, because I haven't tested it yet myself, but like they finally, a year and a half later, seem to have fixed Polearm Master in the game, so that
Nice.
butt action attack actually works like it's supposed to. I haven't tested it yet, but we'll see. And so yeah, if you have a Hexblade, you can actually use your charisma for that butt attack. And if you have Great Weapon Master, I'm hoping it will add the 10 damage from the Great Weapon Master and all those kinds of things. And now it kind of makes me go, I might want to rework that Hexblade build that I just barely put out yesterday. But maybe not, because the reality is in Baldur's Gate, I think especially, like, you crit and kill enemies so frequently, especially with a really powerful damage dealing build, that like you're gonna proc a bonus action attack from Great Weapon Master, just the Great Weapon Master feat, right? Frequently enough that the Polearm Master might be a little superfluous. But anyways, I'm happy to know that they've fixed it if they have, and that's cool. So it's fun. I'm just starting Act 2 on my Bladesinger run. I haven't played as much as I want to because I work. And I have to, like, when I'm in BG3 right now, it's to, like, figure out how the Giant Barbarian works. Right. You know what I mean? So I can do a build for it and write about it and stuff like that. So anyways, that's kind of where I've been spending my video game time.
The chat seems to be excited about it. They want to see an optimized party build for patch 8.
Yeah.
That'd be a big undertaking. Didn't you do that before, or like a kind of pseudo version of that?
Not really. The closest I've come to it was like an optimized build for every companion.
There you go.
Which actually coincidentally is my second most popular video of all time. Like the first is that very first BG3 video. Right. But the one that has outperformed pretty much everything since then is I did a 2-part series, an optimized build for every companion, and like part 1 was half of the companions and part 2 was the other half, and that part 1 video especially has just gotten more views than anything over the last year and change. The hard part about doing like an optimized party build is, I mean, you could do it. It's usually, a little shticky, I think, around like, okay, let's like assume that you cast the darkness spell and everybody has blind sight or dark vision or double sight or whatever, and then what can we do with that? Or, let's get it doesn't quite work the same in BG3. I was going to say like a spike growth team. And then everybody's like dragging enemies around spike growth, but spike growth doesn't really work that way in Baldur's Gate 3. Right. So in that case, an optimized party might be like your quintessential like tank, healer, and 2 damage dealers or something like that. Which I could do. I don't know. Maybe I'll if I do one more Baldur's Gate 3 video, I might do something like that and call it like the ultimate party builds or something like that. Right now, my plan for the next BG3 video is just to tackle like what I think are kind of the funnest or most interesting of the new subclasses.
Yeah. Give me a rundown. What do you think is the best right now? Like, or the thing you're most interested in, right?
So,
like Bladesinger's up there.
Yeah, exactly. Like, well, this video is going to be the Giant Barbarian, the Stars Druid, but healer. It's going to be kind of like the new best healer, I think, in the game, coupled with Life Cleric. The Shadow Sorcerer, which I think is just a slightly improved version of like your ultimate Eldritch Blaster type. Okay. And then the last one, the Arcane Archer, you will be happy to know, is really good in Baldur's Gate 3.
Okay, that's almost enough.
You're gonna play it. You gotta play it. It's so good.
But Oblivion Remaster came out, and I've been wasting my time playing Oblivion.
I can't get into Bethesda games as many times as I've tried. anyways, Arcane Archer got really awesome glow up.
Nice. I'm so glad to hear that.
Yeah.
They really needed it. And if anybody was going to do it, Larian.
I was playing with it last night and got pretty excited and almost made me want to like play a ranged character, which I never do. And I think when you couple it with some things like, like a swords bard or, and or a thief rogue, and your dual wielding hand crossbows, because you're not limited to using just a longbow or a short bow.
Right.
You get so many cool, fun, like ranged attack options between the swords bard stuff and the arcane archer stuff, and then just like the myriad of like powerful special arrows that you can find throughout in the game, right? That you're just making like 4 awesome attacks every round or more with swords bard stuff, and you're just like, you just have all these like cool, fun toys to play with. Basically, it's really so cool.
Awesome. Chad is asking though, does solo mode in BG3 work like Neverwinter Nights, where I only have to focus on my PC and let the companions run themselves?
I don't think there's a way to put like your companions in AI mode. I kind of wish there were, if I'm being honest, because the first 3 or 4 times that I played through Baldur's Gate 3, like I had a lot of fun bringing my companions and seeing the banter and the interaction and, trying out different builds and, getting cohesion. The last 2 or 3 playthroughs, I was like, okay, like I just want to almost have a more streamlined experience here. Like I know the stories, I've explored, I've heard the banter, and I love all these companions, but it's a lot more effort to like spec out 4 players, right? 4 people, and gear and worry about, and then what are they doing on their turn? What are they doing on their turn? I have a lot more fun just building a really powerful like solo character, and maybe giving them some buffs from the other companions. Like as people who watched the Baldur's Gate 3 video and saw like my gameplay footage, I will like. I'll use my companions to like buff me with like, whatever good buffs. Yeah. Well, not haste, but anything that lasts like a really long time, right? Like an all day long buff. And then they just stay at camp. And I go out into the world and I'm just like super human,
hunter
exactly. And I don't know. I really enjoy playing that way. I feel like it's a little more kind of streamlined experience, if you will. But yeah, sometimes it's fun to have the companions there, and almost like a Mass Effect style, you could say, right? Where like they just kind of do their thing, and they're mostly there to kind of just support you and make you better. But yeah, I don't believe there's an option for that. I wonder if there's a mod. If anyone knows,
say maybe there's a mod that kind of just gives them a default action that they take or something. Yeah. A small AI or something. I don't know.
Anyways,
there you go. So do you want to get into the Discord questions?
Yes, we should do some questions.
Got a lot because we had some carryover from last time.
Okay.
So from last time we had from Rabbit Slayer, are we ever going to get more dual builds? The Mountain Blade is probably one of my favorites of all time, along with the Needler.
The Mountain Blade was so good. The Needler was just a solo one. But anyways, maybe they're just saying, I also like the Needler. Mountain Blade was really good, and unfortunately has been massively nerfed due to the change to the mounted combatant feat, which used to let you force an attack against your mount be an attack against you that was probably going to miss you if you're really hard to hit, right? And now it just says if an attack hits your mount, then you can make it hit you instead. So that's drastically changed. But anyways, signs point to no. As much as I hate to say that, I never say never, right? But like again, and I've said this before, there's so much more work and so much worse performing. Like every single double build video that I've ever made has like been a bad performer. And it takes almost twice as much effort for half the reward. So it's just really hard to justify spending that much time. As fun as they can be and as useful as they can be, right? Again, maybe one day, but like probably not, just for that reason alone. You know, and with the Mountain Blade, it was a good example. Like, I thought it was a fantastic combo. And the part one, and I'm like, well, you know what? Like, it's twice as much work. What if I split it up into two videos? And now it takes me 2 weeks, and it's not actually twice as much work. It's just, you know, spreading out that workload over 2 weeks. But then, like, part one did really well, and part two was like one of the worst performing videos I've ever done. You know what I mean? And so it's just like, bleh. Yeah, it's hard to justify. So sorry.
A question from Thundercat. Have you ever thought about doing a book of your builds on Kickstarter? I think it would be cool. You could add the artwork and stuff. People could use them as a guide to play or for their big bads. I would pay money for that.
Yeah. Here's something that we've talked about too, I think, on the Q&A in months past maybe. But yes, I have. And I've thought about either, you know, maybe doing that with Randall, and just kind of incorporating his stuff, or maybe, you know, if I'm working with some other publisher, it might be a thing where they're like, well, if we're going to publish your book, like a Ghostfire Games or something like that, which Dungeon Dudes use, they have their own art team already, you know what I mean? And so, there's a question there. I actually, you know what, I actually had a conversation with one of these third parties. My agent kind of introduced me to. They'll probably be taking over like my merch and actually making that a thing rather than just what I have right now, which is just like a couple of t-shirts and a hoodie or whatever. But you know, that conversation happened a while ago, and they were like, hey, and we could explore a book, and I pitched them, you know, kind of that similar book idea, and they were like, you know what, I think that'd be awesome, we should totally do that. But I'm busy, they're busy, my agent's busy, and so like we kind of had this initial conversation. I was like, yeah, you know what, let's maybe explore this, and it hasn't really gone anywhere since then. So nothing anytime soon for sure.
It's always hard with those kind of bigger things, like the conversations there, the ideas there. It's like, how do you keep that momentum rolling? And there's probably got to be something to like catalyst it to get it going. But
and
it's good
you know,
it's like on the table being talked about. That's so cool.
My agent actually also represents Ginny, the Dungeon Dudes, Will from D&D Shorts, Antonio from Pointy Hat, all who are much larger than me. You know what I mean? And so, like, if there's a bandwidth issue, they're probably always going to get more time and attention. There's more in it for both my agent and for this other party that's handling, you know, these kinds of things, because the potential sales are just more there. So I'm kind of the afterthought. I don't want to say that, but I'm the smaller potatoes or whatever. So anyways, and you know, also it hasn't been something that I've been pushing either, just because you know, my time gets taken up by things, as it does for everybody, and I tend to be someone who values their free time when I can get it. And so, anyways, always at the back of my mind, no solid plans or ETA on when something like that might happen.
Very cool. We've got a question from Drew Meaton. I don't know. If you could assemble a dream team for a level 20 one-shot charity live stream, who would be DM and who would be the 5 other players?
I mean, you know, if I can cast the wish spell to make this happen, like, sure, get Matt Mercer or Brennan Lee Mulligan, right, for the DM. If I have to be a little more realistic in my hopes, I might say Monty from Dungeon Dudes. I think he's such a fantastic DM. I've only played with him a very little bit, but he strikes an awesome balance, I think, at like setting the stage, putting a lot of flavor into his stuff, and then also like he's really good at the mechanics. You know what I mean? So he's that nice kind of happy medium. As for who I'd play with, it's like, what's the dream team? Probably like some of these other friends that I've gotten to know, you know, via YouTube content creation. So like playing with Kelly is always a blast. He's fun and funny. And we totally are
A couple?
a couple, yeah. And yeah, you know, rope in like a Ginny and Antonio from Pointy Hat. We talk about this actually, and this might be something that I've spoken about here in the past, like about potentially maybe one day trying to get like all of us together and doing like a kind of a short, you know, 6 to 8 or 8 to 10 episode, you know, season long sort of progressive story.
Yeah.
Where, you know, we do like 8 to 10 episodes and call it season 1, and then a few months later do 8 to 10 more episodes and call it season 2 or whatever. And we talk about that, and like all things, we're all just like, that would be awesome, and then we all go back to our lives.
Put it with the pile with
yeah,
the book.
exactly.
Yeah,
and
put it over there.
don't do anything about it. But maybe hopefully one day. So yeah.
There you go. The chat is saying you're not an afterthought, not to us. You're the reason we know the other guys. You're the big potatoes, Colby.
Thanks. I'll tell my wife that. From now on, honey, call me Big Potatoes.
That's like the ultimate Hobbit name. I'm Big Potato.
Potatoes. Boil them, mash them, stick them in a stew.
Precipice on Discord is asking, love your videos as always. 2024 has done much to close the caster-marshal divide. In your internal tier list of classes, do you have any marshals above a full caster?
Oof. I mean, that's tough because obviously it's going to depend on what you're looking for, like how you're judging this is better than that, right? If you're talking like just pure kind of versatility and overall like potential power option build, it's tough. That's tough. Like I would say for pure damage, like if we're just doing like damage type things, sure, right? Like a druid might be underperforming a barbarian or a fighter. Can I multi-class? Like these are some of the questions that come into my head, right? But again, like, yeah, how are you saying like this is better than that or more powerful or whatever? Because if it's like, well, this character can just do a lot more. Like, yeah, they can put out some damage potentially, but they can also control and support and buff and debuff, and they bring a lot of utility with them. It's pretty hard to think of a full caster, even, you know, clerics, which are really good. Or some of the sort of like non-damage focused subclasses of, you know, bard or whatever. Like they bring so much in like versatility, right? With spells that, yeah, it's kind of hard to argue that any martial, I think, would kind of just be better than a full caster. Now, again, if we're just talking about like, well, how about just for like pure kind of skill-based roguish utility, sure, like a rogue's going to outperform like most full casters, I think. Maybe a bard would be an exception there, I don't know, but and where do the paladins and rangers, and I guess for that matter eldritch knights and arcane tricksters, you know, fit into the mix here?
Yeah,
because they're sort of those already hybrids, right? Paladin, for my money, a level 20 paladin is gonna be great at going up against any level 20 character. Just for, I guess, if you're thinking like, you know, the amount of things they can bring, they'll maybe be less good at like control, but probably better at like damage and, you know, whatever. Anyways, so yeah, I don't know, and I guess I should say for the record, I don't mind that like there's disparity in power levels between like casters and marshals. I think what I would probably, and I say this with a grain of salt and a lot of hesitation, prefer would be to, you know, for WotC to kind of go, okay, look, we get it. Like marshals are never going to be like as good as full casters at X or Y or Z. Call it, you know, control and maybe support or whatever. But can we build marshals that have some utility and support and or control options, right? And I think they've done a pretty good job of that. And make them like better at dealing damage generally than like casters are.
Right.
Not to like take all damage options away from casters, but you know, to say, look, like because
the point of them,
yeah,
right?
because they're not going to be as good at these other things, let's make them really good at at this thing, right?
The paladin should hit really hard.
And especially the fighter and the barbarian probably should, right?
Yeah.
Like and arguably the rogue, but they don't. And like the reason I'm like hedging and hesitating so much is because I love Gishes and I want Gishes to be the best thing, and they are.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, and I like that, and I don't want to lose that. But at the same time, like, it would probably be better for the balance of the game if they were like maybe better damage dealers than your non-hybrid casters, but still probably not quite as good as like a full fighter or a full barbarian, in my opinion. And I hate to say that, and I don't want that to happen, but I do at the same time. Because yeah, like, and instead, what you see, I think, the current state of D&D 5e is, you know, where like marshals were generally given like more utility and potential like debuffing and things like that, with like weapon masteries and some tweaks to subclasses and stuff like that. Maybe a little better survivability, maybe a little bit better, you know, potential control options, but not a lot of damage buffs. Some, and depending on the class, depending on the subclass. But like, I talk about this in my build videos a lot, I think, where like it's the scaling that's really the issue, right? Like they're so afraid, and I don't know why, to really let like martial classes just get some awesome, powerful, potent like scaling into their higher level and even mid-level tiers of play, and where, you know, when you have spellcasters being able to upcast spells and getting Wall of Force and, you know what I mean, and of course Wish, but even, you know, Mass Suggestion, and I mean there's so many really good, really powerful higher level spells that it almost always gets to a place where you go, if I could be upcasting, you know, Spirit Shroud, to say nothing of Contra Minor Elementals, which is fixed, by the way. Hooray, right? It scales a little more appropriately now. Yeah, you almost always get to the point where it's like no martial class is going to get a feature at their higher levels that's going to compete damage-wise with what you can get from spells.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that makes it tough. That was a really long answer. And
I think it's a good discussion though, because I think a lot of people who play marshals want to be that big like bonky hammer guy, and they get to those higher levels and they don't feel so big and bonky.
Any scaling, any damage scaling, almost all damage scaling that martial characters get in the later game, in the, you know, after a level 11 or whatever, is just very minor compared to, you know, what you might see from upcasting spells, right? And so, like, I mean, obviously the famous one is Rangers at level 20 getting their Hunter's Mark from a D6 to a D10. But that kind of thing is prevalent throughout the game. It really is. Like, you're just seeing these small little bumps of like, ooh, this thing does a D10 instead of a D8 now, or you know, you even like you get an extra 2D8 instead of 1D8
like,
once a turn.
How many D8s is that? And they're just floating out.
Yeah, and I don't know why WotC is so afraid to take the gloves off. And maybe, frankly, and the Dungeon Dudes actually kind of talked about this in a recent in their recent you should ban multiclassing at your table video that I got to make a cameo in and had a lot of fun with. And while of course I would hate it if Wizards of the Coast took away multiclassing, there's a very strong argument for saying like, multiclassing is why we can't have nice things, I think Monty said in that video. And it's like, because you get all of this like front-loaded power at the beginning of a class, right, and a subclass especially, it makes it difficult to give really awesome, powerful like scaling later, because then, you know, I can see Wizards going, well, wait a second, if we give barbarian some amazing level 13 feature or whatever, then if they coupled that with this like low hanging fruit feature from another class, well, now it's bonkers, right?
Yeah.
And I get that. And so, yeah, like you could make the argument that you should instead go the Pathfinder route or, some other system where it's like you can't really multi-class. You can maybe get some little features and benefits from other classes potentially, but you can't like actually take another level in another class. So
interesting. Yeah, I wonder how you would really solve that.
Other
than banning it outright,
right?
Is there a way where you say like, okay, you can do this, but if you're multi-classing, it actually means X, and there's like a subset of the rule or something.
Oh,
I just died. Yep.
Let me give you some juice.
Any better?
Let's check OBS. Test. Okay, it shows that it's coming through. There's a slight delay, so let's see what people say.
There we go.
There we go. Okay.
So it must have been something tough.
Well, I don't know what I said. I was just talking. I was just
basically going
saying
on
the same
more
thing.
about the same with Marshall.
It was something like, maybe it wouldn't be as difficult to scale as we think, because I think what they probably need to do is just say, okay, what's the best thing that a marshal could do after a certain point to increase their damage? Well, it's add spells. Okay, how would the damage increase by adding, like, what's the gold standard spell, whether it's Spirit Shroud or Conjure Minor Elementals or
Swarm,
whatever. Okay, well, we need to be able to at least keep pace with that kind of damage increase. If they were to instead just add more barbarian levels or fighter levels or whatever, and maybe that's it. I don't know. There would still be an argument for multi-classing because, again, you get so much more from spells than just damage, right? And so maybe the damage scaling would need to even outpace what you might see from a Conjure Minor Elementals type thing. And then, of course, there's the argument, well, it's not like those spells are free. They come with a cost. You've got to cast them as a bonus action or an action. They usually require concentration. You might lose that concentration, etc. You unplugged.
Well, I had to because we. What?
Oh,
did,
no.
Did it resolve?
Yeah,
okay.
no.
Okay.
Oh.
I thought it was because of this cable.
It might just be because that thing's getting bumped or moved.
Okay.
So I think we're still good.
Okay, cool. The next question that I saw on there before my screen went black was, what was your favorite encounter that you've run into as a player? Whether that's monster or like just total encounter.
Oh, that's a good question. There's so many to choose from. Most of the ones that come to mind are, well, gosh. Yeah, that's a really good question. The first one that comes to mind is fighting Tiamat.
I was about to say, that's the big one. That was so...
Spoiler warning for those who play Wizards of the Coast modules, as we used to call them back in the AD&D days. Yeah, the end of the Tyranny of Dragons, right? You fight essentially an avatar of Tiamat, right? Mm-hmm. And that was awesome. And to their credit, our friends Scott and Corey went overboard to like build.
It's like a like 3D set that we had with multiple levels, and the dragon was there.
That was amazing and super epic. Gosh, the Ravenloft, not Ravenloft, Strahd.
Yeah.
I had that one moment, that one time, remember, where like my Oath of the Crown Paladin was like standing, holding the line against like a whole swarm of enemies while you guys all escaped, and I ended up dying. Well, I got knocked out and thrown in jail, but that was a really cool moment, so fun. Trying to think, like, one of my very favorites was in a homebrew game that that we were playing. Preston was the DM. It was when I was playing that Death Cleric build, and I just want to make sure that doesn't get... Yeah, okay. I was playing that Death Cleric build. You were... What was your character? It was the end of an arc, and we were kind of caught in this gang war, right? And we had picked a side, but like I was really uncomfortable.
That's right.
With the side that we had picked. And so we went to have this final showdown against the boss of the other side, and our ally showed up, but he was also just like a thug and not a good person. And like there was this big fight, and we took out the bad guy, and then I kind of turned on the ally and like fought him too, and you were like, I don't know what to do, but like I guess I'm gonna join you. And like our party was a little bit split.
It was us versus the world in that moment, and even against our own party, because they were kind of like, we can't betray this contact.
Yeah, I am a firm believer that you have to be careful about like this is what my character would do kind of thing. That can be problematic if you're acting in a very sort of antisocial, potentially triggering, and upsetting way, just for the sake of like, well, my character's a dick, so like I'm gonna be a dick. Like that can be kind of game ruining, right? But in this situation, I really felt like, I don't know that like me, Colby, like necessarily wants to do this, but like I feel very strongly that these are two bad guys, and I don't like the idea of picking like the lesser evil.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Because like if they're in charge of the city's crime syndicate or whatever, like it's still not going to be good for people generally. So like we need to take them out too. Anyways, but our table was a little split on it, and I could tell that like a couple of our friends that we were playing with were a little bit like, dude, like this is our ally, like what are you doing? You can't turn on him like that. And so I felt a little conflicted about it, but it definitely made for an amazing, memorable
event for sure.
Experience, no question.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
that was one of the best ones. All right, we've got this one. I'm curious to see your take on it, because I've never heard of this before. Do you think you'll ever make videos based on D&D 5e Gestalt builds at any point in the future? I hadn't really heard of this before, but apparently it's like progressing two classes at the same time, and you kind of take for hit dice, for example, if you're a fighter barbarian, you would take the barbarians because that's the better of the two.
Right.
And you're kind of building two at the same time.
Probably not. Just because I think I like to build for again, like what has the biggest sort of mass appeal, right? To capture the biggest audience. I try to mostly stick to rules as written, or at the very least, like rules as probably used by most people at most tables.
Yeah.
And
sorry to comment in here. Always such a windrunner. LOL. For the wrong situation.
yeah. Even as a death cleric, I was still
classic Kaladin right there.
still, yeah, for sure. Although to be fair, I mean, if you've read the books, not to spoil anything, but like Kaladin almost takes the opposite effect, where he's like, I don't want to attack anybody,
Yeah.
and my character was like, I want to kill everybody. So I guess true death cleric. But yeah, in the name of the greater good, right? Anyways, yeah. So probably not. Like if it's anything that's like sort of well outside the established kind of norms at most tables and rules as written, probably not. So yeah, that was a fairly easy answer.
There you go. Okay, another question from Discord from Barbantia. Monk and Rogue now both basically kind of share cunning action, with Monk having the option to spend resources.
But Monk's is better.
Premium. What do you think of giving Ranger dodge as a bonus action option at level 2, or maybe as a reaction with limited use?
Yeah, I mean, I can see it as a limited use is probably better. But I think the weakness of the Ranger doesn't necessarily lie in their lack of cunning action, right? Yeah, sure. Again, I don't think it breaks anything one way or the other. So sure, if you can convince your DM, I don't think it's like, oh no, now Rangers are overpowered. I think for me, any Ranger fixes probably revolve more around cleaning up what's happening with Hunter's Mark, among other things. But yeah.
There you go. Araxthos Demetrius asks, which of the builds have you played yourself in your campaigns? I'm pretty sure one was the Starry Night and the Blade Singer.
Let's see.
And I guess we got to clarify too, because we played a lot of one shots that are like outside of the couple of campaigns.
Yeah, and I've played a lot of one shots like with the Dungeon Dudes, with Chris, right, Tramp Monk, other people. We did that Gauntlet run. I mean, there's been lots of that. I've played more of them in those scenarios than in campaigns. In campaigns, it's like, well, my first ever character, I've never really done a build for, and I probably have more hours played with Ariana Wild than any other character, I would say, at least in 5e, because that was like a year and a half, two. I don't know.
It was a long time.
A long time. Yeah. But she was a Shadow Monk / assassin rogue. I did a Baldur's Gate 3 build that closely mirrored that. But yeah, anytime I've done a similar type build, it was been more like if I could redo this character in this campaign, this is how it would be. Yeah. It would either be probably a ranger instead of an assassin, or a warlock, actually,
that was
with a shadow.
When we were first getting into 5e, so what you know today is so much different from what you knew back then.
Well, and again, like that build in my mind was like, this is going to be like the ultimate assassin. They're just mostly monk that gets auto crits, and lots of attacks, and they're going to be really cool. And they ended up mostly being frustrating because one of our friends was playing a barbarian who was intent on always rushing headlong into battle and never letting me get the drop on our enemies. But so there's that one. There's the Death Cleric, that first Death Cleric build that I did years ago. That's who I ended up playing. Let's see.
What were you in Strahd? You were,
that was a Oath of the Crown Pally, but I didn't. I guess my Paladin tank build, early Paladin tank build. I played maybe like a modified version of that for Strahd. And then there was the I should just look at all of my. I've got all my little minis on the shelf over there. So I'm looking at them now. Ceridon was mostly my what did I call that build? It was the Warlock. It was the Lockett Bard. The Lockett Bard.
That one was good.
Really
that was a solid build.
Really good. I think,
You were
and
just
so
hacking
much
people
burst
in half.
damage. Yeah, that was a lot of fun. Let's see, what was the Stars Druid?
Oh, Aloma?
Light Cleric, Aloma. He was actually kind of a combo of my Light Cleric video with I want to say it's the Moon and Stars build. Ooh, I can't quite remember. It was one of my Stars Druid builds, and they were basically like an AOE specialist, where they had Spirit Guardians and were constantly like trying to pull people into their Spirit Guardians, and then fireballing too once in a while when they wanted to. So that was a lot of fun. Trying to think if there were any others that I played in like a longer campaign.
Let's see, you had Anders, which
Yeah.
base.
That was Anders was oh gosh. Actually one of my earliest videos was like trying to figure out who was better at Polearm Master or Great Weapon Master. And so the build, it was an early build, fighter versus barbarian or something like that is what the thumbnail says. And yeah, it was basically what I ended up settling on in that video was like a mostly fighter with a little bit of barbarian build, and that's what Anders was. And he was a lot of fun.
He has a Path of the Giant.
He was a Rune Knight.
Rune
Knight.
Rune
Yeah,
Knight.
Rune Knight
And it was when it was in its like early version of that.
yeah,
before they
the UA
nerfed it.
where you got an extra D6 on every single hit.
So good.
When you would use your Giant's Might or whatever. Yeah, he was a powerhouse. He was wrecking stuff and this was like early on. That might have been my first character that I played in a campaign. Oh well, and then the Bladesinger, Bladesinger 2.0.
Right.
I played as Anders, or not Anders, Anye. In that homebrew, which that was the most fun for me. But he ended up not dying, but like at the end of that arc, he sort of got like whisked off to a multiverse kind of thing.
Interdimensional prison kind of scenario.
And I brought in Anders, and Anders, yeah, he was just a fun, just wrecking ball. And I think I remember everybody else at the table being like,
what the heck? Like,
dude,
because you're like 100 damage. Right?
Yeah.
Excuse me. Can you say that again?
I was doing
100?
I was doing like 60 to 100 damage a turn, at level 12 or whatever, 12, 13. And everybody was just like,
I roll a D8. How did you get 100 damage? I think that's when the power of optimizing a build became pretty clear to our table. Yeah.
And it was tough for you as our DM at the time because you're like, okay, I need to build this encounter so that like it provides some challenge, but like if Anders goes down, it's a TPK.
Yeah.
Like, and so how do you
a tight wire every time? But honestly, like it's so much fun playing that way. I love that style because like as a DM, like I'm not trying to kill players, but if everybody wipes, we still had a good time. Like it's gonna be a memory.
Yeah,
and that's kind of how I look at it.
And I hope, to be fair, with maybe one exception, I think the people that we play with, we've talked about this before, like nobody else really optimizes their builds.
Yeah.
And I think maybe if I had a Zone of Truth spell cast on them, they might say something different. But my impression is that generally people are like, I mean, doing damage is fun, but like that's not my favorite thing about D&D, right? I'm here for like, I'm more into like the role play and the character and like doing funny, cool, funky stuff in combat and like screwing up the battlefield and like messing with,
trying to use improvised weapons all the time.
And just kind of doing things that way. So I don't think, again, maybe with one exception,
maybe
people weren't like, you're kind of ruining the fun for everybody else. But we might be unique in that way. Or I might just be lying to myself to help me sleep at night. I don't know.
I don't think so. I'm with you. At least that's the vibe I get.
Yeah.
Okay, another question from Precipice. Do you intend on weaving in the protection fighting style into your builds?
Well, actually, the script that I was halfway through building when I decided to switch this week and start on another BG3 video uses protection. It's so good. Like, it's so good. It's, it used to be that like it would give disadvantage on one single attack and you'd have to use your reaction for it. And now it's, as long as you've got a shield and you're within 5 feet of the ally that you're trying to defend, it's going to impose disadvantage on every single attack that they take until your turn, right? And that's like, wow, that's a really great tank feature. And excuse me, I think that going forward for pretty much any tank build that I use that has a shield anyways, I have to just be like, okay, since the spreadsheet is interested in my own survivability, I'm going to take defense here. Yeah. But if I were playing this character in game, I'd probably take protection, because really, if our goal is to like defend our allies, this is the best fighting style for that. Assuming that you are very consistently going to be within 5 feet of an ally during a combat encounter. Interception is good too, but I think it's not as good as protection
with a rogue,
now.
And then you've always got someone within 5 feet because they're incentivized.
They want to be, yeah. So yeah, it's super good. I don't know that I'm necessarily going to like build around it though. It's just kind of one of those things where it's like, this is a great like protection feature, and if that's what your goal is for this character, then you should totally take this fighting style.
Absolutely.
But
okay, we've got a question from Ronan. Would you ever consider doing a reverse build series, i.e. take suggestions for build names and then see how well you can build a character to fit the name?
That's one of those never say never things, but like I don't love like the pressure of like, I feel like I'm someone who doesn't perform very well under pressure. And so anytime I've gotten requests like, hey, why don't you go live and like do a build based on like suggestions from viewers, or, like come up with something like this in this case, I feel like, that makes me feel like I'm going to somehow like disappoint or fail or panic and forget something important and flub it. So that's,
and it lives recorded forever and ever.
I mean, that's just something for me to work on in therapy. But like things like that, I instantly go like, ugh. Like, I don't know if I want to do that.
Like, I need my time in my spreadsheets.
Yeah, I like to. There's a reason I prefer turn-based games over. Live. What do you say? Non-turn-based, I guess.
First person.
Because I like to just go. Let me think about this for 5 minutes before I decide what I'm going to do. So yeah.
There you go. All right, I think this is probably the last question.
Okay.
We're right at 4:00 right now.
Okay.
It's from Thaladar. Any thoughts on the direction of 5e with the departure of Jeremy Crawford and Chris Perkins?
Yeah.
Who will be our sage for sage advice? That's a question I want to know too.
I don't know the answer to that question because
so much of like what we've learned from the game, or like clarification on rules and things, has come from Jeremy Crawford.
Yeah, and the reality is, I don't know a lot of people at WotC. I don't have a lot of relationships there. Todd, Kendrick, and I have become like, friends. And we've chatted a couple times. I actually did an interview with him semi recently. They interviewed me I think it was a commercial that they're going to put out. And he's a great guy. I met Jeremy and Chris once and had a sort of passing kind of small talk conversation with them. And then some other people that are maybe lower down the corporate ladder, at WotC. And I don't know who they're going to ascend to take that throne. What will it mean for the game? Oh, that's tough to say, right? Because again, not knowing a lot of people, not knowing their background, who they're going to be and what their vision is going to be moving forward. My hope is that they will get somebody with with a really good head for numbers and balance.
Sure.
That's coming from my spreadsheet perspective, right? Not that I don't also value the other things that make D&D
Yeah.
great. But I feel like that's maybe been a little lacking, frankly, in the last decade plus.
So do you think it's something where they'll pull somebody who's working at WotC today and send them up? Or is this
I
going to
do.
be Hasbro being like, we know tons of other
Sure.
C-level people from other companies. We're going to bring in somebody who worked on like a video game. Or
Yeah.
somebody who worked on like a film production.
That's my fear.
Yeah. Me too.
I hope not. I hope that it will be like a promotion from within, unless that person from outside that they pulled in was someone who like knew D&D like the back of their hand. Like if I could wave a magic wand and just put somebody in charge of D&D, whether they liked it or not, it would probably be like Monty from the Dungeon Dudes, you know what I mean? Or Treant Monk, Chris. Like, gosh, I'd love to see Chris. If not in a Jeremy Crawford position, then like, you know, the hand of the king, who's like, okay,
Whispering
like
in the
you
ear.
focus on like the lore and the flavor and like, you know, all of these other like really important, maybe more important, arguably things about the game. But like, I'm gonna be here to make sure that like the balance is where it needs to be. You know, that I would love. That would be my wish.
And then you've got a real good in at WotC at that point.
Yeah.
Then you become the hand of the king.
The problem is I don't know that Chris or Monty or, you know,
Yeah.
anybody else would want that job.
Right.
Depends on what it pays, I suppose, and what the expected hourly workload would look like. But yeah, that would be amazing.
There you go. We're at 4:05 right now.
Okay.
We got a couple carryover questions, but we went through.
We got through
most of them. Yeah,
a
we
good
did pretty
list, a good chunk. Okay, good.
So if we didn't get to it, don't feel bad. We will get to it. Just keep submitting them
Yes,
in the
we will.
Discord, and I collect them on a little sheet that we go through. So send them over.
Okay. Well, thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks for your time. I appreciate it.
Yeah, it's good to hang out. It's always a fun time. We don't always get to hang out as much as I'd like.
Yeah.
We don't get to play D&D as much as I'd like. So
Not
this
nearly
is
as
like
much as I'd like.
excuse to nerd out a little bit. So thanks
Yeah.
for having me on. I
Yeah.
really appreciate it.
Of course. And thanks to you guys. You're awesome. Love you. Could not do this without you. You probably get sick of hearing me say that, but that is truer now than it ever has been, with YouTube ad revenue being what it is these days. So I'm very appreciative of your support. Thanks. You guys are awesome. And I'll see you online. And yeah, have an awesome day and a great week. Okay.
All right. See ya.
Bye.